Hi friends, my name is Michaela Wilson and I'm here today to talk about all of the books I've read so far in 2022, which is like just wild that we're already halfway through and that fall's starting. Yay! But it was crazy like stacking up all of the books that I've read. I have a few that aren't in here because they were library books, but just like stacking up all of the books that I had read so far was just kind of like, I don't know, I just felt super accomplished. I was like, wow, I actually did read a lot, even though I'm slightly behind my goal for this year. But yeah, let's get started. So I read 23 books so far in 2022, and I'm hoping to get to 52. I'm a little bit behind on that, but we'll see. If you want to follow me along on my reading journey, you can follow me on Goodreads. I followed a lot of you after the last video went out on there, and it's been fun to see where y'all are at on your reading challenges. It's just super fun. Anyway, but I've read 23 books so far, and I'm going to give just a tiny little review on each book to see, basically tell you whether or not it's worth your time. And again, if you want to see those full reviews, check out my Goodreads. That's where I post all of that stuff, or my Instagram, either one. But yeah, so starting with the most recent read, this is definitely gonna fall by the end. Starting with the most recent read, I read The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I would give this just a 3 stars. I think it was a book that was based on like 3 very motivational quotes, but the plot for me wasn't really there. There was some kind of good dialogue. The message, super cool. Really liked the premise of it. The execution, didn't really do it for me, but 3 stars. This one could be worth your time. Not really sure, but kind of iffy for me. All right, so next we have A Court of Silver Flames. I loved this book. I know that some people are not Nesta fans. I get it, I understand. But Nesta is just my idol. I love her. Everything about her, maybe it's just older sibling trauma that I just share with her. I absolutely loved this book. It was incredible. I know that there's a few plot points that are a little like, why did you have to add that in there? But Nesta and Cassian's story is fantastic, absolutely wonderful. I loved Nesta's character arc in this. 5 stars, absolutely should read it, especially if you haven't yet, because there's a switch in the protagonist. I highly recommend reading this. It's so good. And I think the paperback just came out, so yeah, get it, do it. Next, we have A Court of Frost and Starlight. This one was a 3 star for me. It's really cute, slice of life, kind of look at the inner circle in the ACOTAR series, but other than that, there's nothing to really write home about. It's a fun read, but just not the best, I think, in the world. So hit or miss, but it's fun to read to get to know the characters a little bit more. So the next one is One of Us Is Next. This one was a 3 star read for me. The ending was phenomenal. I loved the ending. I was like, yep, that's it. Absolutely loved it. Everything else was not great. So I had to struggle through this book to get to the end. I don't know if it's worth it all the way. I do, however, highly recommend the first book, which we'll get to. All right, next we have A Court of Wings and Ruin. Great ending to this little trilogy before she switches off to the next protagonist. I thought this was great. There were some great moments. It was a 4 star read for me. There was just something about it that wasn't the same from A Court of Mist and Fury, which we get to. It just didn't quite reach that mark for me, but still a fabulous end to a really good story. So yeah. All right. Next we have One of Us Is Lying. This is a 4 star read. I really loved this. I really wanted almost the real mystery from one of us is next in this with these characters, if that makes sense. Like, these characters were absolutely amazing. They were so fleshed out. I really enjoyed them getting to know each other and how they connected. The mystery wasn't all that there for me, but the character dialogue really saved this book, and that's why it's a 4-star read for me. I really loved it. I thought it was fun. I haven't seen the series, so you'll have to tell me if it's good or not and if I should watch it, but I liked this one. All right. Next we have A Court of Mist and Fury. Y'all know that I loved this book. I read this during my TikTok reading challenge. Just wow. This book is just incredible. Everything about it is amazing. It's everything you want in just this fantasy world that Sarah J. Maas built. Perfect. Loved this book. Absolutely amazing. All right, the next read is another 5-star read, and it's Book Lovers by Emily Henry. This is the first Emily Henry book I've read. I know I should read the others, just given how much I've absolutely loved this book. This book is honestly, I think, one of my top 3 of the year. It's just absolutely incredible. I loved the romance. It is a romance novel, but I think the best part of this book for me was the relationship between Nora, her sister, and their relationship with their mother, and how that kind of informs their decisions throughout the novel. I thought that was amazing, and this was the first book that made me cry in like years. Weirdly, I don't cry at books very often. I cry at movies all the time, but books don't really do it for me. This one did. I loved every single second of these character stories and highly, highly, highly recommend giving it a read. All right, so the next book is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This was another 5-star read. Surprising. Wow. Everything about this book was perfect. The prose were beautiful. The relationship between Achilles and Patroclus, incredible. The choice of putting the point of view of Achilles' story in the eyes of his lover, wonderful. Everything about this book was so, so good, and I absolutely loved the depiction of the gods in this book. I think a lot of times, especially in, Greek mythology media, I'm looking at Percy Jackson, even though I love Percy Jackson, you kind of get this more homey feel of the gods. They're not as cold and calculated as they really were in most of the mythos of Greek mythology. So I loved that in this you could really sense, the coldness, like what immortality does to beings, and that was just incredible. Also, there might be some background noise. I'm filming this at my parents' house. I'm visiting them for the weekend, so just bear with me there, but I appreciate you guys a lot. All right, so the next book is The Love Hypothesis. I believe I gave this a 3-star or a 4-star. I can't quite remember, but it was good. It was super fun. It was a very, very fun read. That's the most I can say about it. It felt like a fan fiction to me, and not in a good way. There's great fan fiction out there, but I could just immediately tell this was a whoa, I can't speak. A Raylo fanfic immediately, and there were just some scenes where I was just like, I don't know, like squirming from secondhand embarrassment of for the things that the main character did. So it was iffy for me. I don't think it was all the way perfected, but super, super fun read. So there's that. All right, and the next book is Cersei. This was my first Madeline Miller read, and it's her newest novel, I believe, but I think she's writing a new one right now. I really, really thought this was just spectacular. This was another 5-star read for me. I do think Song of Achilles is slightly better, but seeing Greek mythology, just all of these different myths and legends told from the perspective of Cersei was amazing. I absolutely loved every part of it. I thought it was very, very interesting, and it's rare to find a really well-written Greek mythology retelling through the eyes of women. I haven't seen a lot of really well-written ones. I know that there are several out there on the market right now, but this one is just incredible. I absolutely loved it. It really, really touches on femininity and divinity in a really, really cool way. And again, with Song of Achilles, deals with, you know, the coldness of immortality and what that does to a person. Super, super, super cool. Loved that. All right, the next 4 books are the entire Heartstopper series. I only have the first one. I reread all of them this year in preparation for the TV show that was coming out on Netflix, and I love this series. It is so sweet and so cute, and also deals with some very serious topics in a very nuanced way. I just think Alice Oseman is an absolute genius in the way that she writes teenagers. It feels like you're reading what teenagers would do in this day and age. I feel a lot of times teenagers, you know, are played by adults and they're treated like adults and all of this. This just really dives into really serious things that teenagers deal with on a day-to-day basis in a way that makes it feel real, and I love that. Also, if you haven't watched the series, please do. I watched it over and over and over again for, I think, a month. It was kind of a problem, but it was amazing and just totally encapsulated the vibe of her novels. So definitely read them. They're amazing. All right, the next one is kind of boring. I gave this 4 stars. This is an anthology. It's an anthology of short stories. And I read this for school. Surprising. That's kind of what I do as a lit major. And there are some really, really, really great short stories in here. There's some that are just kind of like important to have or look back on. You have like the yellow wallpaper and things that you kind of learn in school that are nice to look back on. So if you're looking for like a good short story collection that you kind of want to turn back to when researching things, this is great. Would I recommend it for fun? Probably not. But, you know, had to do it. So this one was interesting. All right, so the next 2 books I actually got from the library, so I don't have them physically with me, but I am really, really wanting to buy them soon because I loved these next 2 books. So the first one was The Vanishing Half, which if you have not read, please, 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 please read it. I know you've probably heard people say it that I don't even know, but it's worth the hype. It's incredibly well written, and the story is just so unique and so beautiful, and words, I don't even know how to describe it. The story follows 2 Black women who are both able to pass as white. One chooses to live her life passing as white, and the other lives her life as a Black woman, and it kind of tells their stories. But it also tells the stories of their children, their 2 daughters. I thought that would throw me off. Like, I thought I wouldn't like it, and I know that there are some people that do not like that aspect, but that was my favorite part of the book, was the daughters' perspectives on their mother's lives, on where they are in their lives, and it's amazing. Just, you know, the family dynamics that are there, the, you know, just their lives are so different in so many ways and yet so similar. Yeah, you just have to read this book to understand what I'm talking about, but it is incredible. The way she just writes everything as well, you really feel like you are reading these characters' perspectives. You feel like you are reading their thoughts, which sometimes in novels like that have very various point of views, you feel like you're just reading the author tell you what this person is thinking. Not the case. I feel like all 4 of these women wrote this book. It's incredible. I loved The Vanishing Half. Beautiful, loved it. Please read it. You will not be able to put it down. All right, and the next book I read was I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. And that book was a very difficult read. It's hard and painful. But I Know Where the Caged Bird Sings is beautifully written. You can tell that she's written poetry. Her words flow in a way that, I don't know, normal prose writers wouldn't have been able to accomplish. And the way she tells her story, her life story, is just incredible. The way she lays out this book, it is beautiful in every sense of the word. I think it's a very, very important read, especially if you want to understand the Black experience, especially in like the 1970s era, what Black women experienced. I know it's only one experience, but I feel like she encapsulates what a lot of women during that time went through, and it's incredible. I loved the way that she wrote this, and I highly recommend it to anyone, especially those who are really seeking to gain a deeper understanding of what it meant to be Black during the 1970s. Incredible. Definitely worth your time. And the next book is The Invisible Life of Addy LaRue, another 5-star read. I think this is my second favorite of the year. I think Vanishing Half kind of takes my top place, but this one was amazing. Again, the prose, beautiful. It just is incredible the way that the story was told, and I think the story itself is very, very unique. I've never heard anything like it before. Basically, the premise is this main character is forgotten by everyone forever. She lives for eternity, basically, and nobody remembers her. So she kind of lives constantly in the present, and I think it's a really excellent exploration of that, and just the beauty and pain that can bring at the same time. And she meets someone who made a deal with the same person she did, which was a twist I was not expecting, but it was amazing, and everything about this was great. It's about love, pain, all the things, just life, and how life happens, what life is, what's important to you, how you find the people that, you know, are worth remembering. It's incredible. I highly recommend reading this book. It's great. The next book I read was A Court of Thorns and Roses. This was a 4-star read for me, and it took me a while to get into the second book, and I think that's because this one ends off on such a closed note. It feels like a complete story on its own. If I read this without knowing that there was a series, I would never expect there to be another book after this. So I think that's why I took so long to finish the series, because it just felt completed at the end of this book. But I loved this book. I thought it started off the story really well, and it really built up the twists and turns that happened throughout the rest of the series in a very unexpected way. So I kind of want to reread this book now, just to look back knowing what I know now and see if I can notice more of the foreshadowing that was in play here. But 4-star read, excellent 5-star series. Highly recommend reading this series. I know y'all know that I love ACOTAR. It is amazing. Great. The next book I read was A Grief Observed by C.S. Lewis. I thought that was a very interesting read, especially someone who has gone through faith crisis. This is a very excellent portrayal of what a faith crisis feels like. Kind of just, you know, doubts, overwhelming thoughts. It's just overwhelming. I did give this 3 stars. It was hard for me to get through. There was just certain things where I felt like I was just reading the same page over and over again and not really obtaining everything, and that could have just been me, but it kind of just drew me out of the book a lot. But I highly recommend for people who are going through faith crisis to read this book. It's very, very interesting to kind of get a look into what that feels like. Of course, as you know, C.S. Lewis is a very strong Christian. At the end of this book, he does kind of come to terms with his faith, but still super, super interesting read. Definitely recommend. All right, and the second to last book is The Honeymooners. I thought this book was fun. I gave it a 4-star. It was a very, very fun read. Really like playful enemies to lovers, not super serious enemies to lovers romance novel. I thought this was one of the best ways to start off the year, just light and fun and tropical in the cold February months. So it was a great, great read for that time to kind of bring me back to, you know, warmth, and I thought the characters were really fun and interesting. I think one thing that surprised me about this book is I feel like a lot of romance novels, their characters tend to be very one-dimensional, like it's the same guy every time, just a different format, or it's the same girl every time, just different format. This one, all of the characters were very, very well fleshed out. They all felt real, they all felt genuine. The situations felt real and genuine. So that one definitely knocked it up a star for me. Just having genuine characters fall in love. I loved that. All right, and the first book I read of the year was also a library book. I read Perks of a Wildflower again. It was my second time reading that book, and I love that book. I gave it 4 stars. It is just an excellent look at I think just teenage life again. I just love that feeling that that book brings me, I guess. It feels real, it feels genuine. All the characters feel that like real and genuine, and I think my biggest qualm is that it looks like a high schooler wrote it, which I understand is the point. It's a high schooler writing it technically. But it just kind of throws me off. I think now as I'm older, it's harder for me to read something like that. I kind of just want something that feels a little more adult, and it doesn't for me anymore. But I love the story and I love the messages that it holds. So I think it'll still be near and dear to my heart. But it is 4 stars for me. So, but yeah. That is all the books that I've read so far in 2022. I hope you enjoyed. I know it was a lot, but I have a lot more to go. So if you want to join me on my journey, you can follow me on my Bookstagram. I have everything linked down below. And my Goodreads. I love keeping up with you guys on there. It's so, so fun. And I just want to thank you guys for all the love on my latest video. I had no idea that that was going to get the amount of love that it did. On my little channel, and welcome to all my new friends. It's just kind of crazy. Like, it was just really nice to feel everyone kind of understanding where I was coming from with that video. It was really, really nice, and I'm excited to get to know you all. It's just really fun. And given that it is fall, I have tons of fall videos ready to go that are going to be really fun. Some fall challenges, some Halloween challenges. We're just gonna have a fun fall together, so I'm really excited, and yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!